Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan. It is our midweek mashup here on Inside the Birds. We're going to go over some transactions, go over some injuries. We'll go over some of the things, actually, because we don't have a game until Monday. Adam and I thought it would be a good idea to also take a look around the NFC East, which is off to an interesting start, and kind of take a bird's eye view, pun intended, of the teams that play in the same division, of course, as the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's a big week ahead. Adam, it's a strange week, right? Because you're coming off of a Thursday night game. And so you've got many, many days in between the next game, which is the Monday night game. In fact, the Eagles haven't even convened for practice yet. They don't usually convene until Thursday.
Yeah. Yep. So, yep. It's usually Thursday, Friday. So, well, in fact, it is. The real practice week is Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, and it always is for a Monday night game. And typically, which I guess they're doing, they're only having one light workout before Thursday. And then we'll get a better idea of the injuries. We'll get into that. So this midweek show all season will update injuries, transactions. We'll go inside everything, and then also we're going to start previewing the division. We haven't done this before, but we wanted to change up because we have an extra show each week. Mm-hmm. And gives you an idea of what the rest of the division is going to look like. Not only that, I didn't realize this until I looked at the schedule. The Eagles play Washington, as Buddy Ryan used to call them. They play Washington twice in the first 9 weeks. That's kind of weird.
It is.
They played Dallas earlier this year. They play them in week 9, so they've got 3 divisional games in the first 9 weeks. So, yeah. And who knew? There are only 2 divisions who have 3 2-0 teams, and the NFC East is one of them. You can't call it the NFC least anymore. Mike Gill had this great stat. I think it might be the best division over the last 75 games, best division in the National Football League in terms of record.
Over the last how many
75 games or something? Some weird. He threw it at me. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know the NFC East was that good over the last 3 years. Something like that.
I mean, certainly going back last year, right? The Eagles were a double-digit win team. Dallas was. Giants made the playoffs. Washington was not great, but they weren't terrible. That is surprising.
Maybe just last year, I don't know, but the number he threw, because I didn't know what he was referring to, but it sounded like it was at least last season. Certainly was.
Sure.
So now we're going to get into it because we have better information on Washington. Is there 2-0 real? We'll get into that. Dallas's, we'll get into that, and the Giants, who had. I know the Gannon haters loved it. It was one of the all-time comebacks that you could not believe it if you watch the game. You're like, there's no way they're coming back. And they did. That was a pretty incredible finish. And by the way, the Washington-Denver game, the fourth quarter was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been a wild, wild start to the NFL season. There have been some amazing finishes. And obviously, a lot of injuries. The Eagles are dealing with their own, but really terrible to see what happened to Nick Chubb on Monday night. One of my favorite players to watch. I think he's the best natural runner in the league. And to have that same knee, that's tough, man. I just, hope he's going to be okay. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Adam, torn pec, just like Avonte Maddox. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, and they didn't know that. They didn't know the severity of it until the testing. And they were not expecting to be lost for the season. But, yeah, it sounds like he is. He's on long-term IR, and that's it's too bad. Yeah, in fact, they got another guy, this pass rusher. They actually 2 pass rushers on IR now. They got James Houston, who came out of nowhere last year as a late-round draft pick, and Josh Pascal, who's another sub-package rusher for them. So, boy, this is not good. And I know their division isn't great, but Green Bay's been decent. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if the Lions could hold up. They had a tough loss. And those defensive injuries clearly were impactful in that game against Seattle. With Seattle for the second straight year playing the Lions, scored a ton of points. Yeah,
definitely. So it's a big week for Inside the Birds. We had our ITB pod Monday. On Tuesday, we had the season debut of Q&A, Quentin Michael, Jason Avant. They did a fantastic job. It was very well received, as it normally is. If you haven't caught it yet, I would say some very strong opinions on the Eagles, both schematically and on how they felt about the AJ Brown sideline deal, which, in itself, not huge. We've certainly seen bigger sideline rants in the NFL. We've seen bigger sideline rants from the Philadelphia Eagles, but the point being, and I won't give it all away, I mean, the Eagles were up by at least 2 touchdowns at that point. And so I think Jason and Quentin took umbrage with the idea of somebody trying to be disruptive when about getting a ball when you're about to be 2-0. And they made some really fair points on that. So you should hear that. Obviously today, this pod comes out, but also Jason Avant in the second episode of Gun on One. A lot of people who are Eagles fans know about Jason because he's talked about growing up in Chicago, South Side Chicago, one of the toughest neighborhoods, and escaping and, becoming not only a great football player, awesome human being, model citizen, helps kids, philanthropist, entrepreneur, everything. But I don't know if anybody's ever really heard Jason open up about just how deep into the street culture that he was and how close he was to being swallowed up by it. And some of the anecdotes that he told, I would guess most people couldn't even believe that was Jason Avant talking about himself. It's really powerful. It's definitely worth your time. Gunnar did a great job with the interview. It's pretty emotional, I would say. So if you have a chance to listen to this, is the second episode of Gun on One on Inside the Birds, a real candid sit down, so to speak, with Jason Avant. It's really awesome. Adam, I know even telling you that you know a little bit about his background.
I know this
a little bit, but never like this before.
No, in fact, this is a strong interview. It's about an hour, and you will not believe some of the stuff that Jason talks about. Again, I didn't know 75% of the stuff that he talks about in this interview. I was not aware of.
Yeah,
actually, probably less than that. Probably maybe 15%. So to when he talks to D Gunn about this, what he's overcome in his life, it's remarkable.
Right.
And look, we love having him in our family, and he's such a great guy. We love him. So good for Derek to score this interview with Jason because, and obviously Derek's now part of our family with his one-on-one series. Right. But just to know that Jason had this in his background and he remembered it, and obviously they've known each other for years. It's pretty special, and we're so thankful to have both guys working with us.
100%. Definitely worth your time. Jason didn't mind talking about this. He doesn't talk about it a lot. He actually said he doesn't really get into everything, but he has become someone who speaks to kids and wants people to understand the gravity of his story, to have them understand that there's hope. There's hope for you, and whatever you're going through, that you could be at the lowest of the low and still pull yourself out. And he was able to do that. Obviously, he had some good people to help him do that. But the point was that, if you share your story and it resonates, then people who may not think they have hope can hear it and realize that they do. So again, great job by Derek Gunn, and really, really appreciate Jason for opening up. Great show.
Yep. And that's today at 12 p.m., right? It goes live Eastern on YouTube. Yeah. Yep. YouTube and all of our platforms. Make sure you subscribe to both, or whatever platform you like to listen to, whether it's us on YouTube or Inside the Birds channel, or obviously any platform. So you get that alert. So,
Yep. And also today for our Patreon members, we had our talk with Flip going to drop today. So Coach Flip does John DiFilippo does a breakdown of the tape, the offensive tape from each game. So had a great conversation after the Patriots game of what he observed, and I'm sure he'll just build on that from what he's seen in Minnesota and how that's going to match up against Tampa.
Not only that, half of it's that, and the other half is we go through strategy, running back rotations, because week one was egregious. Swift should have played. That was embarrassing. This is exactly what I talked about before our pregame show. Swift needs to be a factor, because think about it, if Gainwell doesn't get hurt, and I think Jeff McClain asked a greght question, and I know it's hard for Sirianni to say it, it's all hypothetical, but he asked that in the Monday press conference. He brought it up, like, what, if Gainwell didn't get hurt, what would have you done? I mean, who knows? But that was ridiculous that Swift didn't play a lot in week one, and now that game that he had Monday night was, yes, the blocking was absurdly great, but he does things Gainwell can't do because Gainwell's not that explosive. Swift was special. We know about the injury history. We've detailed it. When they made the trade, we explained why the Lions wanted to move on from him. But, man, this thing could look unreal, because this is what the fans were talking about before the season started. People were saying there's no way that they'll be better than Sanders with Swift and Gainwell and Scott and Penny, whatever Penny could contribute. But if they use these guys correctly, it could be really good.
Yeah. We did a really good breakdown on InsideTheBirds.com. It was done by our analytics intern. His name is Sam Finkel, who does phenomenal work. So if you go to InsideTheBirds.com, you'll see he did a deep dive, analytics-based deep dive into the strengths and weaknesses of both Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift in totality. It's not just running, but maybe contact balance, explosion, pass protection, everything to sort of take people into at least the coach's mindset of why they might play one guy over the other. And it's really good. It's very, very educating, but I also agree with what you're saying. Like at some point you just throw out like numbers and data and say, use your own eyes and say, okay, I can play Kenny Gainwell, but still I can also play DeAndre Swift without him completely getting lost in the offense like week 1.
Gainwell's really good. If you want 3 yards, he'll get you 4. If you want 4, he might get you 5.
Yeah.
If you want 5, Swift might get you 10.
Yeah.
By the way, Swift never had a negative run this past game. His vision, you saw it because I know you watched the All-22. His ability to take any gap and get to the second level, because it's the coaching term, and we talked about this with DiFilippo. His ability, because John coached John, we went over some of the backs that John DiFilippo coached. And John talks about this. It's not the speed to the hole; it's the speed through the hole. That's the problem with Gainwell. He's just not explosive.
Right.
Whatever happened in Memphis, you could throw that up there. It's about what you look like now. Sanders is a damn good back, but he was not this explosive as Swift was in this game. This is unreal what he did.
I think you just turned Kenny Gainwell into Leroy Horde, basically, right?
Well, I use that line. Leroy Horde line. Yeah, I had to do it. I love that one. Yeah, Leroy was a really good. And by the way, a versatile back, catch the football grinder. Yeah. But Kenny Gainwell's bit. Now, is it Gainwell's fault or is it the coach's fault making him to a grinder?
Great question. Good question.
He can grind carries, but Swift is more explosive. That's not debatable.
He's just got that wiggle, man. You saw it in that. He turned something into something more. I can't say he turned nothing into something because he had every running back so far for the Eagles had plenty of space to work with.
Yep.
Boston Scott, but he turned something into something even better with some of that wiggle that DeAndre just naturally has.
Did you see that one run late in the game where he made one guy miss and he went down to the right? It was just so explosive.
Mm-hmm.
Something else. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay. No, it's good stuff. Obviously Thursday, Inside the Tape with Cosell, Greg Cosell, Clay Harbor. Oh man, their debut could not have gone better as far as the feedback, the viewership, the content. I should say it was fantastic. Their chemistry.
They were great, by the way. They were great because these two guys didn't know each other, and that by the way, it's every Thursday at 6 a.m. Eastern. What happened is Geoff threw the show up last Wednesday night. Because they had a Thursday night game. Was it Wednesday night you threw it up or Tuesday? Wednesday night?
Wednesday night. Yeah.
Maybe it's the West Coast people. We got a ridiculous. I guess people are staying up late. Maybe they're anticipating the Minnesota game or something.
Yeah.
The traffic that we got Wednesday night, I was like thinking, should we do a show Wednesday night live or something? Like it was crazy.
Good idea. Light bulb went off.
I don't know, but I was like, are you seeing this traffic? This is so late at night. What are people doing staying up? I guess they have insomnia. I don't know. Anyway,
I give Greg a lot of credit. He was not intimidated because, as Jason Avonte likes to say, when you're on with Clay Harbor, it feels like you're on with an underwear model.
Yeah. And how about Greg saying his family, I guess his wife and his daughter, or maybe both his daughters, they knew Clay was because of The Bachelor. Yeah. That's the first thing they brought up. And I don't even know if Greg knew that because they talked about it. That was great.
Oh, he also played for the Eagles?
I know exactly right. No, but they brought up The Bachelor first. Isn't that funny?
Oh, that is funny. Not surprising, though. All right. So that's pretty much everything the week that is in ITB. I mentioned Flip on Patreon. That's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. Want to welcome our new members, Kyle, Adrian, Dorian, Ano, and Hannah. So it's really good to have you all aboard. And we keep growing, and we're really happy to keep doing more for everybody who becomes a Patreon member, while also continuing to add to the mainstream ITB platform and just trying to expand. So really appreciate that from everybody.
Yep. Chat tonight with me at 8 p.m. and our Patreon dollars go to our talent. So yeah, we appreciate your support to put, as Geoff just said, so much new content, man. I mean, should we do Saturday content? I'm just kidding.
Easy.
I know it's every day a week. We're not doing anything. I didn't think this would be happening, but here you are. Thank you for your patronage, everyone. Anyway,
all right, let's get into some of the transactions for the Eagles. Obviously, the biggest news. I'm laughing. I mean, it really is the biggest news. It's about the punter.
It's funny because I don't know. I didn't tell you that I was going to put the story out. I had been sitting on it for 48 hours or for 24. but I wasn't for sure it was going to happen 100%.
Yeah.
So, I got the information. I was like, all right, I'm going to put this on Twitter because people stop asking us about Braden Mann. It's like one of these situations where we started something last April, and we appreciate the bloggers who gave us credit for first reporting that the Eagles put a claim in for him last April. So anyway, I put this out there, and my mentions, it's a punter. We're absurd. And I was like, what? Because they were so obsessed with a lot of the fans wanted Siposs off the roster because they can't get rid of that vision. What happened in the Super Bowl? Okay, you got your wish. And the Eagles did the research on Braden Mann. They worked him out, and here's the detail that's interesting. So, they worked him out a couple weeks ago. Not only was his workout good punting, but these are the two. This is inside football right here. These are the two most important things. First of all, the snap, the hold, the operation as it was, or it should be, was terrific. But here's the other part. This is really inside football. Like he was a really good athlete in high school. So, covering this business for 20 years, I've learned a lot about special teams, more than I probably wanted to learn, but you never know when you're going to use the information. But we've talked about this before, but this is really important when it comes to this situation. When an NFL team signs a punter, if he can't throw the football, it doesn't matter if he can punt 70 yards. He's not getting signed for two reasons. If the snap is bad, it sails over his head, he's got to be able to grab it and throw the football if he has to. Also, if you have a fake punt, he's got to be able to throw the football. If you can't do that, you're not getting signed. So apparently he's a pretty good athlete. So he passed all the tests. That stuff's important. You never know when it's going to come. You never know when it's going to happen. Again, as I said, if the snap's way over his head, he's got to get it, and he can't punt it. And he sees a guy break open, you got to be able to throw it. Apparently he was a pretty good athlete in high school. I don't know if he pitched in baseball. Apparently he's got a good arm. So that's really important. He passed the test.
All right. Well, there you go. I hear what you're saying, and that's great intel. My own viewpoint on it is, I think for the Eagles, right, the operation has to be good, which is the holding of the punt for Jake Elliott. Mm-hmm. Because say what you want about Siposs, and we've talked about this already. I mean, he was the reason that he was the punter instead of Cam Johnson from years ago, because Jake Elliott was starting to struggle with the operation and his kicking suffered. So I imagine, they can work him out, but until we actually see it in a real environment, a real game, we'll have to evaluate it. But obviously, so just for technical purposes here, Braden Mann was signed to the practice squad.
Correct. So
for probably a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So they've got 3 weeks. They can use the activations up. Then they have to sign. Now, I'm assuming they're going to do that because, as you just said, look, he's new here. Yes, the operation went very well in the workout, but that doesn't guarantee them anything. They got to see him do it. Very good point, in a real game. Mm-hmm. See if he can do it. I mean, they put so much work into this guy, like this research and all this, the nonsense of the Steelers, knowing that because the Steelers, every NFL team gets to know who put claims in. Right. In April, it was the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Eagles, and the Bengals and the Eagles were farther down the waiver order. So the Steelers knew this. So I don't know what they were doing. For 24 hours, they kept two players, the 53-man roster. Maybe they're waiting for the Eagles to call, but our understanding is the Eagles never called for him. They just waited. They knew it. And the funny thing was, Presley Harvin did not punt well, the Steelers punter, in week 1. And Mike Tomlin actually called him out. He basically said, our punting's got to be better. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, are they going to actually bring Mann back? And they didn't.
But that guy's huge, by the way, Presley Harvin.
Yeah.
Is he like 270 pounds? I
don't know if he's that big, but he's a big dude. Yes. I'll
not quite Jared Lorenzen big, but I mean, he
was drafted. Yeah, he's 250 plus. Yeah, and you know what? He's crazy. He's not even 6 feet. How the hell is he? Jeez.
That is the oddest looking punter shape-wise.
I saw him, and I know, boy, is he 230? But no, he's listed at 255. Again, now I know it's a moment in time. It could be 250, 245.
That's like in high school football when like the right guard just has a good leg, so they turn him into the kicker.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna. What's that?
So in high school football, you'll always see like sometimes
it's right. It's way bigger. Two things: Andy Reid and punt, pass, and kick. Remember that?
Yeah.
On Monday Night Football, and it was so much bigger. And I'm gonna get now. This is for your old schoolers. You weren't here then, Geoff. But we probably brought up Gus, the kicking mule. Buddy Ryan signed a kicker off of a farm. Who did we have someone in the infancy of our show? We did a Like, just an interview we did with someone who talked about it. I don't know. It might have been Reuben Frank, because Reuben remembers the story. It was one of his first couple of years covering the team.
Right up his alley. So
they brought this guy off. I remember it because I thought it was the most ridiculous thing, because the guy, when they brought him in, was wearing overalls. So look it up. If you don't believe me, Gus the Kicking Mule Eagles and read the story.
Oh my God.
I just remember this is the kind of this dumbest thing. And Buddy, who was a legend in this town for never winning a playoff game, they brought. I don't know how he found out. I don't know who told him, but because the guy had a huge leg, but when he came here, he sucked. And that was the end of Gus the Kicking Mule. That's enough of that one. That thought was funny.
On that note, though, when I was at Penn State working for the Daily Collegian, this is in the 90s.
Yeah,
we ran a blurb on April Fool's Day about, and remember, recruiting is huge, right? Penn State recruiting, big. Everybody always reads on recruiting. We ran a story about Penn State getting a verbal commitment from a kicker from Peru.
Really?
Named Lurpa Yadzloof.
How do you remember? God.
Which is April Fool's Day spelled backwards. In the blurb, we wrote that he would kick 80-yard field goals.
Yeah.
To measure it, but they would be through the mountaintops of the Andes Mountains.
By the way, you'll remember this. You're old enough to remember.
I didn't give you the best part about this.
Go ahead.
Everybody believed it. We got so many emails. We got so much feedback. Well, give us more information. When's he coming in? Is he going to be? Can he beat out Brett Conway for the
Brett Conway? Oh my God, I remember him. Okay, the old enough to remember this one. Sid Finch.
Oh, of course.
Former Met.
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated fictitious. That was so great. They duped everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway,
good stuff right there. Kicker stuff. But yeah. It reminded me like the whole war, that you learned about the War of the Worlds thing in the 50s, where the made up radio, like alien invasion, everybody believed it. That's what I truly experienced that with the school paper there, when everybody believed
That's awesome. So I'm going to now you're going to make me Google this. So, okay.
No, I don't even know if it was, I think the internet was just starting.
I'll pull Mike Francesa. I'm going to Google the computer to say, anyway.
1894. I'm not
right. No, that was, my nephew Sam was on, my nephew Sam Caplan, he had this before I had AOL. He had Prodigy.
Oh yeah,
remember the jump feature? Because I would go over. He had DirecTV, and we would watch games together. In 94, 95, we watched wrestling together. And he had Prodigy, so you can get scores by hitting the jump feature. And there was no. The only way you got scores is, particularly if you played was fantasy or rotisserie baseball or football, you'd have to call this 800 number and pay. Or 900 number, I guess. Remember, Pro Football Weekly had it. Some service had it. You'd call Sunday night.
Yep.
Oh, but anyway, 30 years ago.
So moving on with transactions, and this is why I think I have the best job in all of sports media working with you, because only you would do something like this. And I'm going to show
you. What did I do?
And I think it's fantastic.
I did.
I'm honest. This is the greatest job in all of sports media. On our rundown, you say, we'll note that they signed the cornerback Taiwan Mullen to the practice squad. And in parentheses, you note he's number 16.
No. I'm so okay. I screwed. He's the 16th player on the practice. That's what I meant. I screwed it up.
There's no hierarchy of guys on the practice.
No, I know, but no. But he's the last. He filled out the 16th spot temporarily because obviously going to. Right. No, but what I usually do is when I do the rundown for us, if it's a first name and I have trouble pronouncing it, I'll go okay. I'll go ahead. I ask somebody, hey, do you know how to pronounce this guy's name? Because I have no idea. I'm baffled.
Right.
Sometimes it's harder.
That's a good point because his name is spelled like it would be Taiwan, not Tai. It's not T-A-I. It's T-I-A-W-A-N.
I was told Taiwan. It just has it spelled like that. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. He's a small slot corner, and apparently he has good tape from Chargers preseason. I was told by another team.
Oh, okay.
Well, so he's small.
Signed him to the practice squad.
Yep. Yeah. No, they worked out a ton of players. Yeah. Not the greatest list in the world. As I look at it now, William Jackson was by far the best player. The Washington, and I give Ron Rivera credit. He was very public about this. When they went to a mirror match system, they said they couldn't play for them. So we'll ask Greg Cosell, because Greg, I remember we asked him about William Jackson because the Eagles were looking for corners last year, backups, and Greg said that he just was not the same player he used to be. Now, I know people are asking about Chris Harris. the Eagles had interested him years ago, but I was told that was overstated. It wasn't what Chris Harris put out there. They were looking to be more of a nickel.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he's been. Now he's played both inside and outside quarter, but he's like in his mid-30s, 34, 35.
Yeah, I remember thinking he was a little long in the tooth when they were interested in him back then.
Yeah. So good story. It's an undrafted free agent. Made a lot of money in his career, but yeah, there's I would say the other player that they worked out is actually interesting. John Kelly, who I remember him, he was a running back for the Rams. He's 6th rounder, very explosive, but he has no experience. He was with the Browns this summer. They cut him, but it's not a great list that they worked out. To be honest with you, the best player by far is Jackson. He who the heck knows if he has anything left.
Yeah, and I always feel like if you're a cornerback and you're on the street right now in a league that needs good corners, you're probably not viewed as very good anymore.
And that brings up a great point, because I think what happens is people see these names. Like, sign him.
Yeah.
We've learned through doing this show, there's a reason, as Geoff said, that guys are on the street. Particularly in September. Now, after week 1, so teams don't have to guarantee the salary. I get, seriously, these guys are usually going to be signed week 2. We're already into week 3. Today's Wednesday. So you're basically, if you're not signing anyone now, they're not playing this week. So it's week 4. So that, yeah, you're right. There's a reason why these guys are in the field. So on the street. So don't just assume these guys can play anymore. But that's why you work them out. And by the way, we've mentioned this before, but it's important to note you can not only work these guys out, but you tape all of the workouts. So you see, and also they can get a physical. Even if you don't sign, they get a physical. You can see, like, if they had a previous injury, see where they're at in the rehab from it, see where they're at. Because if they need someone on an emergency basis, they could sign them. And they could see if the guy could run anymore, whatever position it is, particularly if they're older.
Yeah. So we'll see what the Eagles do there at slot corner. And also want to note that Trey Sermon, who was waived by the Eagles earlier in the week, has popped up on the Indianapolis Colts practice squad. He is certainly a name you should keep your eye on, because you never know what's going to happen once Jonathan Taylor comes back and his situation. And the Colts could really use a running back. So, I mean, if you're a fantasy player, maybe down the road, Trey Sermon gets activated and plays some kind of prominent role there for the Colts. All right, let's get into some of the injury situation first. I want to remind everybody that Inside the Birds is powered by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. Let's hear from them now.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the steaks and the steaks. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right, injuries, as Andy Reid would say.
That was pretty good. You know, it's funny. One of the things I admire about him is he knows exactly what the media wants. He's been in crowd, get their transcripts, the Chiefs. So I read it. I'm like, boy, is he up front on this stuff? And see, Nick Sirianni is a young head coach. He's in his 3rd year. Guess what, Nick? You could actually give people information and it won't matter. It's all about, you're not getting this competitive advantage that he thinks he's getting. It's not what he thinks. And he doesn't care. He's been doing it forever. You think that matters to him? Yeah, this guy's a Hall of Fame coach.
I get it for, like you said, for something, but he wouldn't even like fully confirm the Avonte Maddox pectoral injury. He was sort of like, yeah, we'll get that information to you. It doesn't.
I love what he says. We'll get that to you. Yeah. Or Chip, let me ask you a question. Do you think Chip Kelly was telling the truth when he says, I haven't talked to the docs yet? He would always say that.
Well, I sort of felt like he was hedging it. I feel like he would get to the NovaCare and tell the doctors not to talk to him 1 second after the press conference, so he didn't have to be called a liar. But I still think he was lying anyway.
Really? No,
I used to joke. Well, I mean, listen, trust me, this is facetious. I used to joke the way Chip, as you said, would say, I don't talk to the doctors until
not
later,
yet.
That a player could literally die on the field or in the complex, and he would not be able to know because he didn't talk to the doctor.
No, you can say, well, we haven't got the coroner's report.
No, I haven't talked to the coroner. I don't know.
We're just joking, but that you're right. No, I was one of the few people. I kind of like Chip. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. The media liked him. He got along with them. There's some guys he could not stand.
Yeah,
you know that for a fact.
I never had a personal problem.
Yeah, I didn't like the way he treated people in the building.
Yes,
but I have decent relationship with the guy, but he's mercurial, man. He's a different guy.
Yeah.
Say the least. Anyway.
So about this Avonte Maddox injury,
Yeah.
someone asked us in our ITB live stream last night that we did on Patreon, that we do twice a month now, once every other week usually. Has Avonte Maddox played his final snap as an Eagle? And I said, I think so. Now, obviously, the contract, he does have a year left, so he's got some guaranteed money. But,
actually, none. There's no guaranteed money.
No, you're right. You're right. The guaranteed money's gone. So that makes it even more easy to get out. And it's really unfortunate because he's a really awesome dude. And I think when he's healthy, he is one of the best players at his position in that nickel role. But he has not stayed healthy. And if this thing keeps him out all year, which I think surgery for a tear, right, for a torn pec keeps you out a long time. Then it's probably likely that he played his last snap as an Eagle.
I think it's we're just speculating here, but based on his injury history, it's hard to bring him back. You love the guy; he's a wonderful person. It's been a good like they nailed that pick. Like this is a pick in 2018 that their whole like scouting, everybody wanted this guy, and they got it right. But he just has not been able to stay on the field. I feel bad for him. I really do. So yeah, they got to figure this nickel thing out. And Goodrich had some good snaps. He played the most snaps in nickel of everyone. They could, as you said earlier, can go to Justin Evans. We'll see. Now here are the rest of the injuries. Boston Scott's still in the protocol. We'll see if he could start working back this week. Kenny Gainwell with the ribs. He's got to get cleared for contact to be able to play. With rib injuries, that's the way it works. You could feel great, but unless you're cleared for contact, you can't play. This is not baseball. Quez Watkins is a hamstring. We'll see. Nakobe Dean, he's got 3 more games to serve on IR. Then we'll see if he's ready. I know you had the report for 4 weeks, so hopefully he starts working back in the 5th week. And with James Bradbury, he's a concussion. He's in the protocol, so we'll see if he gets cleared over the next couple of days. Reed Blankenship ribs has got to get cleared. That was such an odd injury, the way he got like sort of kicked by the offensive player for the Viking or in week 1 on the sideline. So we'll see. But look, they've got a depth problem here. I know they have a lot of corners, but the quality of depth is in question. Job had some good snaps. He had some snaps he'd like to have back last week. He did some good things. See if he could build on that and be more consistent. But bottom line is that their depth is being tested. Unlike last year, man. That's it's important. If you could keep your guys on the field, you got a chance to go far if you have a good roster like this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Depth was not tested at cornerback last year. Well, at outside corner. It wasn't slot. They had Josiah Scott, but now it's sort of getting tested all around. Linebacker also. And so we'll see, What was I going to say on one of these injuries? Oh, I did want to point out, though, that, and again, to your point about Nick Sirianni sort of not always being completely straightforward, he did say he expected all 3 guys who didn't put Blankenship, Bradbury, and Game.
They have opportunity, right, to play. Now, one thing I will say, Sirianni's been wrong on some stuff since he's been here. I'm an injury guy by heart, so I keep track of the stuff, what he says and what coaches say. So he said, "Oh, well, Dean will miss a couple weeks. He's missing at least 4. Couple's not 4. That's 2. I know it's semantics, but I don't. 2 is like, oh, he's just going to miss a couple weeks. Well, that's not really the truth.
Yeah.
So he's had a couple where he's been wrong. Now, was he try? I don't think he purposely misleads. I don't think he gives it much thought sometimes. Okay, that's his thing. But coaches sometimes aren't quite like Andy would get stuff wrong a little bit when he was here. Now I know he wanted to help out, but he for instance, you can't strain a ligament. You can only sprain it. You strain a muscle. He would call it MCL sprain, or he's got a strain on his knee. No, he doesn't. You got a sprain. It's different. You strain muscles. You can strain the muscles around a ligament. A ligament is you can't strain that. You sprain it. So coaches sometimes don't quite understand it. I learned from my good friend Dr. David Chow. We used to always laugh at that stuff because Dr. Chow would have to give AJ Smith, a GM, a breakdown of every player from tape, by the way, before they turn their injury report in. He goes, "Hey, this is what the injury looks like before we start practice this week. Mm-hmm. I think this guy might be out this many weeks because of what the tape showed us before we get the imaging." So it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, in Andy's defense, at least he would jot Burkholder out there to explain the injuries that he couldn't explain.
I love that he did that. In fact, he just mentioned that. It's so funny you say that because he just mentioned that in his transcript the other day. But it's something like they don't have anything, and we don't have Rick coming out for anything right now because which for me would be serious. You know,
Rick would come out with a model of the.
Oh yeah.
Skeleton of a foot.
Explain that.
Oh man, the good old days were great. Man.
No, explain that. What the model? Explain them what that was incredible. Explain them. I remember that.
I mean, Rick had like a plastic skeleton model of pretty much every bone and joint that there exists in the body. So if one of these bones or ligaments or muscles got sprained or strained, and Andy couldn't do a good job of describing it.
Yes,
like nobody had heard of a Liz Frank before. Like Deuce, right?
When Deuce had it, I was just going to mention it was Deuce because it might have been Deuce in 2000.
I think it was Deuce, and then nobody really had
never heard of it.
Hernia surgeries until like the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
so Andy wouldn't know how to tell us what's going on.
Exactly.
Andy didn't know. He didn't know what an AC joint was from an AC in your car, right? Like so, Rick would come out and he'd have like the bones and like the ligaments.
The model. It was so great. And kudos to it's great to educate the public, particularly the media, so they could be smart about it. And it was so good because, as you said, Andy he didn't know, so it was great. Bring out an expert like Rick, and Rick was great. And he would have like this skeleton, and he'd start talking. I was like mesmerized, like this. It was like amazing, and we've not seen this before with the media in any NFL city. And then with Stu Staley had the first in this market, first Liz Frank injury, and we were like, wait a minute, what about a horse and a star? Like this woman. And she ripped her midfoot, and what? And then Deuce, unfortunately, had a bad setback. He fell down a flight of stairs in Novacare. No, it wouldn't have been Novacare then. It was at the vet. It's ridiculous,
Man, the Eagles had some weird ones because Jason Peters, remember when he tore his Achilles and then he fell off the rollabout and retore it?
Was it the scooter? Wait, was it the
scooter? Rollabout.
Okay, rollabout. Right. Yeah. Was he racing though?
No, he sued the company, and I think he won.
Oh, okay.
On him or whatever.
I can't remember, but
John Runyon fell out of a cold tub and sprained his coccyx. Right, his ass muscle, his tailbone.
Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him about that. Okay.
But he did it the week or like 5 or 6 days before a road game against San Francisco. And
oh my God, is that right?
The entire flight.
He's had a bad back he had a bad back for years with the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So those are the injuries.
Crazy.
That was a walk down injury.
That was good though. That's fun.
Let's get to the NFC East look.
Yep.
So we're going to go around the NFC.
Quick look. Yep.
At the teams. First, I want to remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto, so make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation. Let's also pause to hear from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right. So you want to start with Washington because they're probably probably the surprising 2-0 team. Beating the Cardinals, not a surprise. However, they had to come back to win that game. So after week 1, it was kind of looking like, Washington's won. Then they go on the road, right? And they beat Denver in a barn burner, which was a weird game.
It was super high scoring, crazy plays. It was a fun game to watch. Look, they have offensive line problems. Their defense, they're getting pressure. They're getting a lot of sacks. They're getting turnovers, but they give up plays. And their line, they're living dangerously with their offensive line. Eagles play them, week 4 very soon. You should feast as they did. Now I know Wentz took a lot of the sacks. A lot were on him with those 9 last year. But they don't have what we call an A-level offensive lineman. Not one of them are A-level.
Right.
And when they play the Eagles, I know they're super deep at receiver. They're going to have to go heavy 12 personnel. They might have to max protect. I know Hal's a pretty good athlete, and he's a risk taker, and he plays off schedule outside of structure sometimes. I don't see them having a problem with him. As long as their top pass rushers are healthy, they can get after it. Now, I'll say this much: Montez Sweat, who's on a contract here, is trying to get a new deal. He's playing well. They just got Chase Young back last week. They're really deep in the secondary. It's a good defense. Yeah. They should be better though. They're not as good as with their talent level. They should be much better. Eagles have done well against them, and they will. I don't see them having a problem, but we'll learn more about them. We'll see how the Commandos do this week. And that's the thing. You're going to learn so much about Washington. They host the Bills this week, who could score. Well, the Bills are coming off such a bad game. You have to think they're going to bounce back.
Washington's defense, I feel like, is supposed to have been good for the last 3 or 4 years. Exactly. And the Broncos have been struggling to score points, and then Mims gets them twice, right? He gets a 60-yarder, and then I think he gets like a 43-yarder, and then this guy B. Johnson, what's his name?
Oh, Brandon Johnson, it's an undrafted guy.
Yarder. Yeah. So I don't quite get it with them, with their defense. I feel like it historically just underperforms, given what we said about their D-line talent and their secondary. Mm-hmm. And then what also strikes me is, if you remember last year, they beat the Eagles, but not because they were great, but more because the Eagles turned the ball over 4 times. That once again, they're running the ball a lot, but not at a high. 4.2 per carry is pedestrian. It's Brian Johnson is averaging 3.9 a carry. That's not Robinson. Brian Robinson is averaging 3.9 a carry. That's not good. Jahan Dotson's averaging 8 yards a catch.
Yeah. They were what we call super spreader offense. It's a John Hanson term. But it's when they had like 9 or 10 guys catch passes. Like their offense is pretty good last week. Robinson ran the ball way better. First week he couldn't get out of his own way. He was way better. Gibson's more or less benched. He had a bad fumble in week 1.
Yeah.
So he's just relegated to being a third down back because how could you possibly trust him? He's had major fumbling problems.
Right.
But they're kind of an interesting team because you never know what you're going to get from them. But Washington's a team they're not. By the way, they had some of the longest odds to win the NFC East. Like they were really far. They might have been like plus 1,200 or something. They were really out there.
So, like you said, the Eagles are going to play them twice, right, in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I will say, Howell's completing 66% of his passes. He's been sacked 10 times already. Is that right?
Yeah, their line is not. But he also moves when he shouldn't move. He moves to create space because he's barely under 6'1". He's not tall. He's got a good arm, by the way. He's got a live arm. Pretty good athlete. They're very deep receiver. Good tight end core. The Logan Thomas got jacked up. I don't know if you saw that play. That was bad. Kareem Jackson got thrown out of the game for he got hit helmet to helmet. The ref saw it should have been prevented. Mm-hmm. He could have prevented it from going with his head on the touchdown catch. But you're going to learn all you need to know about Washington these next 2 weeks: home against Buffalo and at the Eagles. In the first Eagles 1:00 game in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I will say this: if Washington is somehow 3-1 or better after week 4, then we have to start paying attention.
Yep, for sure. Yep.
One team that we're already paying attention to, I picked them to win the NFC East, and they're off to a really
good start. I forgot about that.
I did. I picked them to win the NFC East, but I also picked them to lose in the first round of the playoffs. So, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, had a enormous opening night, Sunday night win over the Giants. And then played the other New York team, the Jets, this past week, and they won that game. Now, some people thought that the Jets were going to sort of rally behind Will Rodgers and this great defense, and it should have been a better defensive game by the Jets, but it wasn't for whatever reason. And Dallas looks like a team that's going to contend for the NFC East, as they should.
Oh, contend! I mean, they're one of the best teams in football. I mean, they are so talented, but the difference between the Eagles in particular and the Cowboys is football character, off the field character. They take so many risks on players. They go for the home run player from a talent standpoint. A lot of these guys have issues.
Yeah.
And they seem to implode. Dan Quinn's a tremendous defense coordinator. Their D-line's deeper. They're still, you question how good of a run defense they'll be, but they're talented. Deepest cornerback group in the National Football League. They're all talented. Safeties are good. They cover the tight ends well. Mm-hmm. They look really good the first 2 weeks, but as you said, no Aaron Rodgers. They should crush Arizona. The funny thing is, I remember talking to the Cardinals a couple times they played the Cowboys over the years in Arizona. They're so annoyed because the Cowboy fans travel really well. For those of Eagle fans who were at the Cardinals last year, and I know you guys filled up the stadium pretty well, the Cowboys, they always have more Cowboy fans than Cardinal fans at that stadium.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I just hope that for Eagles Cowboys this year, both quarterbacks are healthy at the same time, because last year kind of sucked for that because the Eagles had to play Cooper Rush the first time around, and then the Cowboys had to see Gardner Minshew the second time around. So it would be nice if both Jalen and Dak were healthy when these two teams play, and both times. So that would be great if both games meant something. That's just makes it more fun.
Quite frankly, until they play the Niners at Week 5, they might be 4-0 because they play at Arizona and they play the Patriots, who can't get out of their own way so far, if not played well. And then it's really that Niner game in Week 5 is the first really difficult matchup. But they're super loaded. They've had some injuries on the offensive line. They've gotten away with it. I'll say this about the Cardinals. They're one of the least talented teams in the National Football League, but they play really hard. They blew a huge lead. The Giants had not scored in the first 6 quarters. They got outscored 60-0. It's just hard to understand. And then the Cardinals choked, but they do play hard. They do play hard for Gannon, but the Cowboys should dominate them. Dak was awful Week 1 against the Giants. I know he didn't have to throw a lot, but he didn't look comfortable. Week 2, he's much more efficient. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait to see them play at the Niners in Week 5. Because the Niners are so good. That's a hell. That's might be the best matchup of the season so far. We'll see.
That'll be a great game. Just because I see they're on the schedule. So Dallas plays the Patriots in Week 4. If the Patriots do not win on Sunday against the Jets, which should be a tight game. I mean, the Patriots are struggling to get that ball moving with the run game and the passing game. If they go to 0-3 with Dallas up next, and then can you imagine a Bill Belichick team being 0-4?
No.
I feel like Dallas will absolutely blow that game. If they have to
that'd be great. I would love it. I mean, I can't help it being for Philly. I'm not a fan of any team, but I hate Dallas. They're so smug, and Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, and they're annoying. But I got to give it up. The roster's damn good. I mean, I'm so interested to see how they handle success, because they handle it here so well.
But I think if you're an Eagles fan, right, you're rooting for New England to lose.
Oh, hell yeah.
You want mad 0-3 Bill Belichick against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys figure out a way to screw
who the Patriots, as Bill Polian would say, who are the Patriots playing this week? Oh, they play at home. Wait.
The Jets.
Oh, the Jets. Yeah, they play at home against the Jets.
Yeah.
No, they're at the Jets. I'm sorry, they're at the Jets. Boy, Zach Wilson against Belichick, and Zach.
No franchise Bill Belichick hates losing to.
Oh,
so if they lose to the Jets, and he's mad. Watch out, Dallas.
He still holds a grudge for film what was it called? What was the first gate? What was it called?
What's it when he resigned?
No. That is funny, but no. The first gate was it the what's that? Spygate, yes, thank you, Spygate. Yeah, I can remember. There's so many gates, I just can't remember. Anyway.
Oh boy. All right, so we'll finish off with the Giants, who I swear they were down. What were they now? 21 or 20?
21-0 and half. Yeah,
and it looked like it honestly felt like the Giants were about to lose their season. I mean, nobody's ever losing your season 0-2, but you cannot get humiliated to the Cowboys and then fall and lose by 4 touchdowns to the Cardinals, right? But Danny Dimes and Brian Dibble did their magic.
It was 20-0. I remember going on Sports with Pharrell, and we were talking about this. I said, if they lose this game, forget it. They're not going to the playoffs. Yeah. It's because so many things have shown up. They have offensive line depth, but the talent level is not very good. Andrew Thomas has been out with a hamstring injury. Their left tackle is elite, but other than that, they're just not very good in the offensive line. Coach well, but it's just not a lot of talent. And Barkley now is hurt. Minor ankle. It's a low ankle sprain, thankfully for them. Mm-hmm. Their receiver is really overachieved. They're really not that talented receiver. Their defense has been horrific so far. I don't understand what the hell's going on with their defense. They've been terrible in defense.
That's the biggest surprise to me.
Yeah, I get it.
They just had, I mean, Wink Martindale did such a great job last year. Yeah. And everybody knows what he does. So it's not a whole thing about being telegraphic, because he's smart and he knows what he's doing. But for whatever reason, they've been a disaster. I think that their linebacker level is starting to hurt them a little bit, but I have a feeling that'll turn around. But so their week 3 matchup, and again, they're acting like Barkley's definitely not out. But that's right. They have tomorrow night. They have the San
The
Francisco
Niners. Yeah, they stayed out west. Yeah, it's a low ankle sprain. The way I understand it, he definitely could. Like they think he's got a real shot at the game at home against the Seahawks next week. But it's a low ankle sprain. He's a running back though. He's got to show that he can run. He can't play until he throws. He could run, start, stop, and all that goes along with doing that. So we'll see. But here's another problem. Matt Breida is the backup. He's a change-up at a third down back. He can't handle a lot of volume.
They're just going to throw the ball. That's why they're short. They're going to turn a short passing game into a running game.
But Daniel Jones can run, man. God, he is so explosive in a straight line. I got to give this guy credit. He brought them back. He was terrific.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid Hyatt out of Tennessee is explosive. Waller had a breakout game, and James Hodgins' son, remember the fullback in the NFL for the Giants and Washington and a couple other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Hodgins, Isaiah Hodgins, boy, what a story he's been. He scored in that game. I give him credit. And Pinnock, didn't Jason Pinnock go to Penn State? If I'm not mistaken, safety.
Pinnock was a Penn Stater.
I think he was, wasn't he?
Gosh, if I'm wrong on that or don't remember that,
then Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, hey, listen, man.
Yeah, my bad.
That's
my
like
bad.
Didn't he play for the Eagles when he played for the Cowboys? Okay, like we don't.
No, that I ain't getting wrong. But no, Pinnock had a major game. He was a big reason why they won.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to the Giants, but it's a 2-horse race. The reality is, it's a 2-horse race between the Eagles and the Cowpokes. Come on now.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. The one thing is, if Washington's defense ever plays to its talent level,
I don't know what the issue is.
You gotta, I don't know, but the coordinator keeps his job, so whatever.
Jack's very close to Jack and Ron Rivera worked together, but previously,
yeah,
and they're close. And I give them credit though. They went to mirror match last season. They had not done that before, and they because that's the way the league is going. A lot of teams are doing that now. Mm-hmm. You could still play some man, but anyway, it is a form of man because you're short area, you're carrying a guy. It's match, carry, deliver. You're doing that. So we'll see. But if I'm the Eagles, I don't fear Washington. You're worried about their D line, but with this elite offensive line, and by the way, Cam Jurgens played a lot better than he did in week 1.
Oh yes, he did.
Right. So I'm looking forward to. By the way, and we're going to preview. I know. Greg and Clay will talk about the Tampa Bay game. We've got some pretty good sources with the Bucs, so we're going to talk a lot about that on our Friday morning show. We'll preview that.
Mm-hmm.
That Bucs game, that'll be a good game. They're a good football team, but they have 5 offensive line changes to finish this talk off. That's not good when you go against the Eagles, folks.
No, last time I checked, there are only 5 offensive linemen.
That's right. Not 6. 5 starters. Well, Wirfs changed
5. You've changed your entire offensive
line.
line. So.
That's right. Tristan Wirfs switched sides this year, and they got 4 other new starters. So, man, that's good luck going against the Eagles, but we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right. Next pod will be Friday. We will have that preview. And then, of course, we'll have our pregame show on Monday of next week, not on Sunday. Because
5 o'clock, right?
Monday
5 o'clock
next week. Right. 5 o'clock. We'll start it. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.